Hello, hello, and welcome to Pride Month at Art Pop Talk. I'm Bianca.
And I'm Gianna.
So, Gianna, we've talked a lot about Pride allyship for brand names, but wowie, are they back and in full swing this Pride season?
Tis indeed. Oh boy, they are. In today's Art Pop Talk, we are kind of looking at some of those things, but the museum version. So we're talking about the role museums play during Pride Month and that play on allyship that takes place in artistic spaces.
Are we ready to make museums gay again?
Of course.
Well, hello, sister.
Hello.
We're attempting to record a video for you guys for the full episode because we were just going to record for a little game we'll be playing later. But Gianna was like, hey, you know what? Let's just record the whole thing. And then I got scared, and here we are.
It's gonna be great. I know. I'm camera shy, but you have to get used to it.
No, you
It's
look
our
so
cross to bear.
glam.
Mm.
Now everyone can see your cute new haircut that I was talking about last week.
Oh, yeah. Well, after a long day's work, this is the best we could
A
do.
long
But
day's work. You look hot. You look good. Look at that
oh,
cherry red
okay.
lip.
Mm.
You know,
It's
it
actually kind
matches
of
like your auburn hair.
my I was telling Bianca earlier, I feel like I am reliving my JoJo aesthetic days, like aquamarine kind of time where JoJo had auburn red stripes in her hair, and I just desperately wanted to be JoJo.
What does the mean girl say in Aquamarine? She calls them the Grandma Brigade with the blue the blue
Put on a
stripes.
dry shirt.
I've got some advice for you. Speaking of pride, maybe some rainbow highlights in my hair. That'd be some great.
Because as we're about to get into, it's not like people aren't being excessive enough with the whole rainbow shtick. It's just like, we get it.
So I'm really excited that it's Pride Month. This episode is coming out on June 1st, which is very exciting. But before we get into it, I feel as though we should maybe say hello to some new listeners and kind of tell them what APT is all about.
Oh, of course. Yes. Our TikTok fam has slowly started to get into the podcasting fam of it all. So that's really exciting. Hi guys, how you doing?
I know right now we got like 1,000 followers on TikTok in one day, which is really cool. And I hope that some of those people that I was talking to on TikTok, I hope that you're listening to this episode and joining us over here at APT. We are about all things museum, art, and pop culture. There's no shame at APT. We're interested in everything. And it's okay if you are undecided about art things, because so are we. And that's what we want to talk to you guys about. So welcome. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have a Facebook group. So if you want to talk with us a little bit more privately, or share some thoughts, you can definitely join that Facebook group. We have an email. You can always email us at artpoptalk@gmail.com if you have any questions, if you want to know more, if you have suggestions, if you want us to talk about something. There were a lot of cool people in the comments on that TikTok. There was like the Britney Spears and Theodora project that someone did for a symposium, which was really cool. So
yeah, it was a really exciting thing to see. And also, speaking of being kind of undecided, I feel like I myself am a little bit undecided about TikTok. So you'll notice that you don't see my face quite as much as you might see Bianca's face. Her work schedule is also conveniently just a lot more flexible during this pandemic. Pandemic.
That's my favorite name for it.
That's cute, but I might try in the future. I might try harder. We'll see.
Yeah, just so you know, it's not just me running APT, but I am just on TikTok all the time to pass the day, pass the time while Gianna's hard at work.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. What was I going to say? I was going to say something about TikTok, and Shoot, now I forgot. But that's okay. Maybe it'll come to me later.
We'll see. It's okay.
All right. Anything else to add before we get into some art news?
Mm, I don't think so. I think it's time.
Okay. So I'm going to try to edit this video to put our art news sound in there. But if you're a new listener, don't be, thrown off by the art news sound that you're going to hear. So, Gianna, are we ready for some art news?
We are. I'm not cool. I'm not cool enough. So true.
All right. So we are recording this the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. But if you are listening to this on June 1st, when the episode comes out, we are, as I said, very excited to welcome in Pride Month. But today also marks the centennial of the Tulsa Race Massacre. So if you don't know, Gianna and I are from Oklahoma. And being from Oklahoma, Gianna and I have talked about how growing up, this horrific event should have been taught to us in schools. However, for us and for many people around the country, the single worst incident of racial violence in this country was not part of our common historical knowledge. Obviously, this is not a one and done situation, and Gianna and I are going to keep talking about how this event is represented throughout our visual culture. However, if you are looking for a bit more on the Tulsa Race Massacre, Gianna and I have talked about this in our Black Art and Protest episode and in our Monuments episode. And we'll also link more resources for you on our resources page at artpoptalk.com. I also wanted to point out that Tatiana Fazla Lizadeh is an Oklahoma artist, or she's an artist from Oklahoma, and she also had a piece up that we'll link on our Instagram as well. But if you're looking for an artist in particular, Tatiana is great. Crystal Campbell, she's great as well, and we'll link those for you. So also last summer, if you've been with APT from the beginning, Gianna and I had talked about how last year we were watching the HBO Watchmen series, which for many people was their first exposure to the Tulsa Massacre. And while it is the centennial event, I'm both like happy and sad by the power a television show had to inform people about the event. And I really do feel like since Watchmen came out, people are talking about it a little bit more. It's a little bit more pronounced in public spaces, maybe more so than it was before. And this like absolutely needs to be taught in schools. There's like no question about that. But common knowledge like isn't really enough. So back to the power of television. That's, there's a lot more we could get into, but the power of television. MTV has announced that last week it is collaborating with Bassett Vance Productions, which is a company run by the husband and wife duo Courtney B. Vance and Angela Bassett. The couple is working on a limited series drama that is based on the Tulsa Race Massacre. So it's not yet titled, but it will be written by the playwright Nathan Allen Davis, who previously tackled the Tulsa Massacre in his play The High Ground. This series will clearly depict the tragedy, but will also talk about the history of Black Wall Street, which is really important. So if you're in Tulsa, or bless you, or if you are visiting Tulsa, going through Oklahoma, you can actually still go to Black Wall Street today. Black Wall Street in the Greenwood district of Tulsa was one of the most affluent African-American communities in the entire country. So if you go there today, as we've discussed, on actual Black Wall Street, there are placards along the sidewalk that name the businesses that were destroyed. But if you're just kind of walking or driving through or down the street, you honestly might not really know where you are. There's not a ton in the space that kind of announces itself as the site of this destruction. And Gianna and I have kind of talked about that in our monuments episode, how even the Franklin Reconciliation Park, it's a little bit kind of hidden. And so,
Well,
just
not
be aware of that.
to mention that the development in that Tulsa area, which is been kind of reclaimed as the Tulsa Arts District,
Hmm.
the development there is still very much happening. They're building this huge building right now. I don't know if it's like an office space or a parking lot of some sort, but I mean, there is like a baseball field right on top of where Blackwell
Right.
Street
One Oak
is. And so
Stadium.
so if you see one of those plaques, it's on the sidewalk. And I mean, I had been there so many times and had even missed some of those plaques because it's just this baseball stadium is just overwhelming and is just on top of this site. Um,
Right. And you have to look
so,
down. The plaques
mhm,
aren't all at eye level on current buildings. They're embedded within the concrete. So you
yeah.
have to look down. And if you're just there for, let's say, like Brady Art Walk or something like that, and there's a crowded sidewalk, it is kind of difficult to
Hmm.
stop and read and realize the historic space that you're in.
Yeah.
Um, Vance said in a statement, quote, Angela and I have always had a deep appreciation for history, especially when it comes to stories that are rooted in the Black community. We look forward to working on the series with MTV Entertainment Studios that will explore an important slice of American history as we look to reflect on events that changed the lives of countless Black families in Tulsa, Oklahoma 100 years ago. We are excited to work with Nathan because his vision directly aligns with the story that Angela and I want to tell. Although the series will revisit the Black pain and tragedy that took place on May 31st and June 1st in 1921, it will also importantly introduce many stories to the extraordinary entrepreneurial people who built Black Wall Street and all that this community accomplished. So, Gianna, my question for you is, what do we think about this? I am excited. I don't know if that's the right word, to see another show talking about this event. I mean, we see that with kind of countless other historical events. So I guess I don't know why this one would be any different, except for the fact that this one isn't really taught as much, maybe. Um, but for some reason, I think I'm kind of harping a little bit on the MTV affiliation, and maybe for no reason, I guess. But I'm wondering in the future, as we learn more about it, how accessible this will be, because Watchmen was great, but it was an HBO show, and that's an additional cost. And who knows, like, how many people have HBO? So I could be wrong or like presumptuous in my line of thinking, but I just hope that it's accessible. And I don't know like what MTV owns exactly, I guess, or where this will be put. So, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah. I think you are right in acknowledging both the complicated power that comes with spreading historical knowledge through like especially like TV programs, and I think especially as like TV shows have taken off. So the development of TV is just has surpassed, I think, what everyone thought it was really going to be. And I feel like these days I consume so much more television through shows, documentaries, comedy, drama than maybe I do a movie, especially
Hmm.
during the pandemic. Um, so I think TV shows and entertainment is an entry point into making these kinds of conversations or this history or a topic more accessible. But I would like to view it perhaps as more of an entry point into learning about this history and taking that upon yourself to also look into that, because unfortunately a lot of public school systems are not doing that for us. So
Yes.
there does have to be that self-empowerment in it. And so I hope that does provide that entry point. I don't know if that's what I was expecting from MTV,
Hmm.
but MTV is a branch off of the motion picture production company, if I got that right, which also Paramount is a part of. So I'm not saying
Okay.
that it
And
doesn't,
Paramount Plus just launched, and that's a whole
and that's like a whole other
thing,
thing,
right?
So I'm not saying that it doesn't matter what production company is. It does. If you are working on a project, especially one of this historical significance, I hope that you would want to work with someone and are able to work with a production company that you like and you trust. But production companies have just been on my mind lately, for maybe silly reasons, but I just finished reading Seth Rogen's autobiography Yearbook, and there's a really interesting chapter in there about the production of The Interview and how Sony essentially produced The Interview, but also Sony ended up dropping its name off of the movie, like visually, because of the complex history that Japan has with North Korea, because Sony is a Japanese company,
Oh,
but they still
interesting.
ended up producing it also in partnership with Seth Rogen's production company. And and as of lately, or as of the other day, Jeff Bezos or Amazon just
Right.
bought MGM. Like,
So Mr.
that's a
Bezos,
huge deal.
he owns Whole Foods and MGM.
Like, it's a huge deal, and I feel
Yeah.
like we're not really talking about that much. We're just like, oh, he bought it, that's the thing that happened.
Yeah.
Like, if you've ever
People
taken
buy major historic Hollywood production companies all the time. No big
yeah, I
deal.
just like, if you ever taken a history of American film class, I mean, that's really where it all
Of
kind of
course.
starts and culminates. So it's really fascinating. So that's all to say that I just think there's so many people involved and so many different kinds of production crew and teams and companies involved
Right.
in a single entertainment project. So I wouldn't say that I'm like suspicious of MTV, but I mean, I guess it's interesting to consider just in the history of like their background, I suppose. But I guess it's nice to see them branching out.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I'm intrigued. And I think I was, you know, accessibility is really important. I think, I don't know when it comes to this kind of stuff, but that's a really great point, Gianna, is like, if people are watching it, they may have more kind of freedom to really do their research about it, as that entry point. So hopefully it's exciting, and we'll keep you tuned in to the um, process, the making of this series. And again, we're recording this episode on Friday before Memorial Day weekend, but you can follow us on Instagram at Art Pop Talk for more updates on the events taking place in Tulsa from Monday the 31st into June 1st. I know today there was some story on the news about how some events are getting canceled, and John Legend was supposed to come and now he's not coming anymore. And I don't want to um, read that story without having kind of like the full context of it. But I believe Joe Biden is supposed to be there. And I know that on Monday night, the 31st, on CBS, Gail King will be leading a special. And here at APT, we stand Gail King. And if you're new to APT, we also talk about CBS a lot because we grew up watching CBS News. So if you're looking for some more background on the event, maybe check that out on Monday night as well. I'm sure Gail, as always, will just do a great job. We love her.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, are we ready for today's Art Pop Talk? You'll hear a little bubble.
That was good.
Oh, was
That
it?
was a good pop. Yeah. Oh, the first
Okay.
one was better.
Oh,
Nah.
sorry.
But yes, today we are thinking about performative pride. Bianca and I have both worked in museums and other artful spaces where LGBTQ history really is integrated into the kinds of programmings year round. So that's been incredible for us to witness. However, sometimes those spaces have fallen into the trap of what we are going to refer to as performative pride, or even performative activism, if you will, that we see, for example, and that you've probably noticed, Gap or Target advertising this time of year.
Right. So the TikToks right now are truly out of control with capitalism's finest. Um,
Finest chef's kiss.
Target, okay. They're
Some people are making it work, and like I'm so happy that they are able to make some of that stuff work, make it look
yeah.
cute, but like also they're like being paid and they're influencers that have the time to be able to do that. And I don't know if I can make that fluffy like pink and yellow collared dress work. And I don't know. I
Oh
don't think
yeah.
I can do it.
Oh my God. I actually like the big yellow with the puffy sleeves. Have you seen that?
It's
It's
like,
I don't think it's part of
yes.
their pride line though. I think that's just
No,
like
it's not, but it's also kind of like synonymous. Synonymous? Like I said that weird.
cinnamon.
Anemone. It is coincidentally, it's
Oh.
bright, it's fun, it's fall, but it's like, okay.
Yeah. No, Andrew and I went to Target and we were we were looking at their Pride line. And the one that we both agreed was probably the most well done was actually one with like pronouns on it. And I thought that one was kind of cute. It was like she, her, they, theirs, he, him. And I kind of liked that one. I can get on board with
Yeah.
that one. But Target may, be the top tier of this capitalist endeavor here because the Amazon line, Mr. Bezos, you're gonna have to figure that one out because the Gatorade tank top, hard pass, the Harry Potter out of the closet with the
Yes.
wand.
Also, let's just not with that analogy. Like, there's also so much about Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling that has had conflicts with the queer community.
Oh,
And that just was not, I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
oh my God, Gianna, that point hadn't even crossed my mind. I was getting more mad at the like out of the concept or out of the closet concept. I didn't even
Also,
think about freaking J.K. Rowling.
I mean, like, if you like Harry Potter, like, you're probably gay, and I get that. Like, but I feel that we get it. I don't need it on a shirt.
I agree. I agree. Also, I I was updating my Bitmoji the other day because I'm trying to make my Bitmoji match this like hot girl summer energy that I have. I'm trying to make her look cute. She's going out, she's getting ready to go to the clubs. And my fucking Bitmoji, like going over there to change my outfit. And I'll share my screen with you or I'll put it up in the YouTube video. But Gianna, can you see this? This
Yes, this is the
pride.
first time.
It's a fucking Vans line. And then it
Mm,
says Pride Vans. I was like,
yeah.
my little gay Bitmoji will not be wearing that. I'll tell you that right now.
I feel like it could be worse based on some of the other kind of content we've been seeing and how people have been commercializing off of Pride. It's not like uber cute. I don't really use Snapchat that much these days or Bitmoji, so I personally wouldn't make the effort to just change my fake needs t-shirt into something that said Pride, but I guess it's nice to have the option.
So I know that Vans, like, I get they must have a collab with Bitmoji. I don't know how it works, but they are always on there. Like Vans has always had like a line for your
Mhm.
Bitmoji. So I'm assuming that this is translating to like Vans in real life is the thing.
Yeah, yeah. Have you looked at any kind of marketing Vans has done outside of Bitmoji during the month of June
No, I haven't.
or in
We
prep
could
for June?
in prep for June. Um, we could look at it and post it on our Instagram. We could post some good pride lines.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at. I guess out of everything we're about to look at today, I'm like the least worried about this Bitmoji brand.
Yeah, it was just coincidental, I guess. As you
Mm.
said, coincidental that I'm here to change my Bitmoji and I'm, pummeled by fans' pride. Like, get out of here. um, okay. However, this is gonna lead into my headphones are making me mad. This is gonna lead into our little game that we're playing. The best TikTok that I saw was about the Sally Henson or Hansen?
Hanson.
Sally Hansen Insta-Dry Pride nail polish line. And Gianna, I thought out of this, it would be fun for us to play a little game where I show you the nail polish colors in the set, and then you try to guess the nail color. So Gianna and I always love the names of nail polish. I think it's just, I don't know, we're like always talking about like funny names for nail polish. And our cousin Juliana, who you can listen to, she's been on a few episodes of APT. She actually had this job at one point to name nail polishes, and people are always like talking about how they want that job. And
No.
I feel like Joel would have done like a little bit of a better job here with this.
She could have done great things.
Oh yes, maybe that's one of the nail colors.
What could have
Okay.
been? TBD.
So I'm going to read you the description of the line because it does have like some good context, I guess. So here's the description from Sally Hansen that's on the little box. Live fearlessly, love all, out loud. Show off your pride and express your true, authentic self with our Sally Hansen Insta-Dry collab with Glad collection. Featuring high-impact cream shades inspired by the pride flag, this limited edition collection stands for the unwavering love and inclusivity. Mix and match for pride at your fingertips in a bold, vibrant mani. Dries in 60 seconds. 1, stroke. 2, coat. Done. No weight, no smudge. And then it says, founded in 1985, GLAAD is the largest LGBTQ media advocacy organization. As a dynamic media force, GLAAD helps to shape the narrative and provoke dialogue that leads to cultural change. Visit glad.org to learn more and find a way to get involved. Sally Hansen is excited to be partnering with GLAAD for the 3rd year in a row, and a donation has been made to support GLAAD's culture-changing work to accelerate acceptance for LGBTQ people, made in USA. So based on the description, I am glad that a company is actually partnering with an LGBTQ plus advocacy group to do good work. I don't know. We don't know what the donation was. Like, a donation has been made is maybe a little vague. But I guess at least it's something good, right? Maybe it's, we don't know what we don't know, I guess, about the behind the scenes thing, but we
Yeah,
do
I'm
know
not
that they're still trying to sell us a product.
sure, which is fine. Like, selling products is fine. It's how our world works. Like, nothing about that description like enrages me. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just more the hyper gayness that they take everything to in a very like cliche, just obnoxious way. And not just Sally Hansen. Like, this goes for everybody.
Right. Looking at you, Jeff. Okay, so what I am going to do is share my screen, and I'm going to share with you a color, and then you are going to try and guess the name of that color. How does that sound?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to get them ready.
I'm nervous.
You're nervous?
Because I feel like what you're asking me to do is like dip into like generalizing gay colors. And then
Well,
figuring
so
out how dramatic their names are.
remember, they're inspired by the pride flag, so don't
Okay.
forget. Okay.
Okay.
And I've got my color-coded sheet on my other screen, so I'm going to look over here. And okay, here's our first color.
Oh, it's brown.
It's
Okay.
brown.
No, it's cute. Actually, I like that brown. I
So
was just
actually,
expecting something more like vibrant for the first one.
oh, maybe I should have picked a different color for the first one. But actually, at first, I was like, brown's not in the pride flag, but brown is actually in the new progressive pride flag, which is really cool. So I was reading about
That's awesome.
the new pride flag, which is meant to incorporate people of color as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so brown is in the new pride flag. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, so what do I think the name is
Yeah.
going to be? I don't know. This is
Oh, come on.
horrible.
You gotta guess. You gotta guess. I'm surprised you
Okay,
didn't come
like
up with just a list of general like gayisms.
I
But
know. Well, because I'm trying not to cheat because they came up so much on like my Instagram. I feel like I saw some of them. I feel like this one is like a good like yes queen.
okay. Interesting. Interesting. Wrong answer, but
Wrong answer.
you are close for another color. I'll tell you that. So this brown color that you see here is called LGBTQ Udi. So it's LGBT cutie. But it's
Okay.
like the Q dash UTIE. So,
Okay. Wow.
this screams LGBT cutie, obviously.
Obviously.
Okay. Ready for the second one?
Sure. Yeah. Feel good about this one.
Okay, you feel good?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
You see her? She's bright. She's sunny.
She's sunny.
Mhm.
I feel a good sun's out, buns out.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Um, Incorrect. This one is called Yellow Lady.
Oh, okay.
So I feel
Like
like
mine
there's
better.
something I'm missing there. I don't know if it's supposed to be like hello lady. Am I missing some
Yellow lady.
iconic reference here and that I should know?
Hmm.
Please let us know if we're
I don't
just
think so.
dumb and missing something, but yellow lady. Okay. Doesn't seem
Yellow
very
lady. Okay.
inclusive. Only ladies can wear this yellow. Okay. And sharing next one.
Got a little electric orange.
What does this say to you?
What does this say to me? Oh, wait, I'm trying to like go into like my gay dictionary content in my head. Um, um,
Maybe that's it. Like Katya and
just like I can't do it, but like a don't the gays don't make fun of me like it's just the sound, the
she's
tongue
my
pop.
favorite. Why am I blanking on my favorite drag queen's name? Gianna. This is
I don't know who your favorite drag queen
Annie
is, BB.
Oakley.
This one? No,
Annie
this one is
Oakley
just
on Drag Race. I
I
have
don't
to look
know
it up
who you're
because
talking about, BB, but I believe you.
this is embarrassing.
It's not as embarrassing as my tongue pop. I tried.
Oh, Alyssa Edwards. Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Alyssa.
yeah.
I'm not.
I know.
I can't do
I
this
know.
as well as her.
Of course. Yeah, but that's how I feel.
So this color. Okay.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. This one is called Love Wins.
Love wins. Okay.
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah. Super cute. All right.
And that color was orange, by the way, for everyone just listening.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yes, that was a nice orangey color. Okay, sure. All right, we're gonna do this one.
Okay. This one
This is the
is
one that you saw.
Yas green. And this was when this girl on TikTok was like, I'd rather you just call me a slur.
That is so funny. I actually think that Yas Green is a cute name. I think it's cute,
Yeah.
but also,
It's just a really it's a really deep green.
yes, I agree. I'd rather you just call me a
Call me a
slur.
slur.
I mean, yeah, it's just like
She did buy it though. It was in her house.
Oh my god. Okay. Here we've got a nice. Wait, did I show you? No, I haven't showed you this one. A nice
No.
blue. A nice
Beautiful
solid
blue.
blue. Beautiful blue. I honestly think beautiful blue.
Yeah, no, I was kind of thinking
That's
that.
like
Just
that's a band, an old band reference. If any of
right,
you
because
listeners did marching
extremely
band.
cool here on APT. That's all
Totally.
that's in my head. Beautiful blue.
I like it. I like it. Well, this one is called Along for the Pride.
Along for the pride.
Oh my gosh.
They honestly just should have called it like Along for the Ride. Call me what you want.
Okay. We've got two more. Is that okay?
Okay. I'm horrible at this, but yes.
All right.
Oh, this one's pretty.
Yeah, this is a nice purple. All these colors are, I mean, they're inspired by the flag. They're just like very pure colors. So we've got it. We're looking, if you're listening on the podcast without the video,
Yeah.
very pure purple.
Mm-hmm. Nice, like deep colors. This is giving me like Little Monster vibes.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah,
Little babies.
Chromatica vibes.
Chromatica.
So
Yeah.
this one is called Vava Violet. Okay, last one I've got for you. This really supple cherry red. I love this color. This is a great red. Matches Gianna's lips a little.
Yeah, just a little bit. Like this is like Rocky Horror.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Like some magenta. I mean, it's not really a magenta color, but magenta vibes.
I guess I could have said the other one was more magenta. Missed out on that opportunity.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, this is like Rocky Horror red lip.
Oh yeah, that's cute. This is called ASAP Apple.
I know. Why don't I get it?
I don't get it either. Am I dumb? Am I missing something? Also, to me, you know what? Honestly, this is not the color of my apples. I'm just gonna say I'm a gala apple. Gala apple. That's a way better name. Damn, I should be the one naming these colors, honestly. I'm a gala apple eater, and this doesn't even match necessarily like Red Delicious apples. I don't know. But, you know, okay. So good job, Gianna.
Touch me. That should have been one of them.
Oh, that's good.
Because that's your fingers. You get it?
Just going out to people at Pride. Woo.
Might be the lesser of weird things you see at Pride, but
I don't know. All right. Great job, Gianna. Thanks for entertaining me.
Oh, well, you might be the only one, but that's okay.
We are going to take a little break, and when we come back, we are talking about our experience with museums and Pride. Welcome back, everybody. So now we are going to think about some of our experiences that we've had in tandem with Pride and museums. So some of the questions that we're going to be thinking about are: when is it okay to centralize Pride in museums and in popular spaces? And at what point does this type of celebration actually become detrimental rather than supportive? Um, and I think that's a really complicated question, because while support and continual allyship is important, um, it feels sometimes like, um, you wish you could just be there, right? Like you wish you almost didn't even have to like call this person an LGBTQ plus artist. They're just an artist. Why do we have to like continually bring this like designation in? Well, it's because we're not all treated as equal in our society. So there's a lot of different types of balances within this support system that can be tricky to navigate. But I wanted to give a little background on some Pride celebrations in the United States. We do have international listeners, and I just wanted to give a shout out to our Korean and our French listeners who I consistently see in our stats at the top of every Tuesday morning. So we love you. Thank you for listening. And you're always so on time.
Little French tart.
Oh, yeah, totally. Um, so Pride Month is currently celebrated each year in the month of June to honor the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Manhattan. The Stonewall Uprising was a tipping point for the gay liberation movement in the United States. And in the US, the last Sunday in June was initially celebrated as quote unquote Gay Pride Day. In major cities across the nation, the day soon grew to encompass a month-long series of events. Today, celebrations include pride parades, picnics, parties, workshops. This is taken from the Library of Congress, symposia, and concerts, and LGBTQ Pride Month events. They attract millions of participants around the world. The first Pride March in New York City was held on June 28th, 1970, on the 1-year anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. By estimates, there were 3,000 to 5,000 marchers at the inaugural Pride in NYC, and today marchers in the city come in millions. Since 1970, LGBTQ people have continued to gather together in June to march with pride and demonstrate for equal rights. NYC Pride, I will be going this month in June 27th. I'll see you there. I'm very excited. On June 26th, 2015, the United States legalized same-sex marriage in every single state. As often happens with Supreme Court cases, a number of similar cases in Ohio, where this case was brought, and elsewhere around the country were consolidated into what became Obergefell versus Hodge. And the Supreme Court heard a number of arguments on April 28th in 2015. And then on June 26th, the court ruled 5-4 in favor of the plaintiff, stating that both bans on same-sex marriage and bans on recognizing same-sex marriage were unconstitutional. Writing for the majority, Justice Anthony Kennedy said, quote, "The right to marry is a fundamental right inherent in the liberty of the person, and under due process and equal protection clauses of the 14th Amendment, couples of the same sex may not be deprived of that right and that liberty." I was reading that earlier and I don't know, I was getting like really emotional reading about the case again. And it's really wild. I'll never forget the day that I heard the news. Gianna, I don't know about you, but I was actually at a nannying job, and I was nannying my kids, and I saw the news on my phone, and I'll just never forget that moment where the case was announced. And it's wild that it happened in 2015.
Yeah, I don't remember where I was when that happened. That's interesting to think about. I was still in high school, so I don't know, my
Mhm.
brain was still developing. But it's interesting to think about court rulings like this, and they feel so historic and monumental that it feels like it's so set in stone and it's going to be there forever.
Mhm.
But it's so interesting to see how there are not other laws to protect, against other forms of discriminations,
Mhm.
especially in the workplace. And
And what we're seeing right now with the trans bills, it's disgusting.
yes, and like adoption and just like so many different things. But
Mhm.
not that these cases are, each case is particularly different into what issue, but I think about so much what is happening right now with Roe versus Wade, and
Yeah.
how for a first time in a really long time, it actually feels like a possibility that something like that feels something like this could be so set in stone. You feel like you have this right,
Mhm.
and people are working to take that away.
Yeah.
Um,
And that people
yeah.
are constantly trying to work around
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
disgusting. So, what does pride mean for art museums? Oh, I just hit my bar cart.
Drinks.
Pull that back. We need a recording studio. My arms, those Martucci arms, they'll just knock anything over,
Yeah.
just talk with your hands. All right, so I'm going to read from the Queering the Museum project. I have some questions about the project because when I was looking into the history of queering the museum, which is what Jan and I are going to start talking about, they haven't really updated the site. So I'm a little curious as to how the project has evolved and curriculum has been more accessible to different museums out of this project, because right now it appears to be a WordPress site, and I feel like 2013 is like the start date that I was kind of seeing comments on the site. But I'm gonna read this quote from them. The Queering the Museum project is an ongoing, coordinated intervention into representations of LGBTQ people in museums. Our goal is for Queering the Museum to facilitate critical dialogues between community members and museum practitioners, addressing the role that museums play in forming social norms around gender and sexuality. We conceptualize Queering the Museum as an evolving project that works in collaboration with community members and organizations, facilitating and connecting projects that further these goals. We focus on museums due to their ability to shape and define the communities in which we live. Queering the Museum believes that museums have a responsibility to account for the role played in constructing normalized ideas of race, gender, and sexuality. 1000%. We seek to educate and facilitate reflections about this role, connecting museum professionals and community members through a variety of activities. Queering the Museum supported projects focus on the museum as a venue for exploring these questions and ideas at the institutional, community, and individual levels. So, here is this great project about museums and museum studies. And right now, again, we're in 2021. I feel like this was kind of started around 2013 again. So we have come a long way in museum studies, but as my TikTok pointed out, there is a weird navigation of the art world where we think that museums are these really democratic and open-minded and inclusive spaces, and that is in fact not the case, right? So I have a quote from the Birmingham Museum of Art, um, Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery in the UK, not Birmingham in Alabama. So I was looking at a Queering the Museum curriculum packet, I guess, that is downloadable from this museum's website. And I'm obviously not reading you the whole packet, but I am kind of cherry picking, I guess, this block quote that was in the packet. Quote, queering the museum is an opportunity to look at our collections with a fresh eye and explore and explore further the multitude of possible perspectives of readings as environments that showcase the creativity of others through the display of fine and applied art. It is important that we continue to work with artists such as Matt Smith in order to communicate the currency of creative practice and the value of what art brings to society. So, looking at this, and again, I if you read the whole packet, it may turn out that I am, cherry picking like a quote to, I guess, like strengthen my point, but what is that if not art history? So I just feel like this quote is like the problematic point at which we enter querying the museum, and we get into that kind of performative lens of querying artistic spaces. And querying the museum is, quote, an opportunity to look at collections with fresh eyes. Like, why aren't you doing that all the time? And showcase the creativity of others. Of their in that
Others.
statement, they are automatically othering LGBTQ perspectives and artists. And I just don't see that as being sustainable. It's not equitable. It's not inclusive. You are capitalizing in a way. I don't know what their financial situation looks like, but they are intriguing guests into this kind of event where you have the opportunity to look at things from a new perspective. Like, you should be doing this all the time. You should be constantly conscious of the multitude of perspectives that art objects offer on a single, everyday, individualistic basis. It
Mm-hmm.
is so ridiculous that you create a museum label that stays constant throughout the lifespan it may have in a museum or gallery space, and expect that one label to always include everything that everyone will think about a piece of art. That's not realistic. And so I am grateful for the educational opportunity for museums to talk about queer history, and I think that's a really important part of queering the museum. But this quote for me just kind of like really got me going on like that weird path that we're going to talk about.
Well, you really said it there. It's interesting because so much of when we talk about queer theory, especially in art, is rooted in language. Everything about art and how we talk about it is rooted in language. So
Mm-hmm.
it's quite interesting that they're I mean, it maybe it is fair to say like your cherry pick statement from that entire, resource packet that they have, but that doesn't deter the fact that that is the sentence that is in there. And it's quite interesting that it's in there because if you're conscientious about using queer language when conducting a queer tour or artist talk, artful space dialogue, um, you're going to be cognizant and you're going to talk about how there is this othering happening,
Mm-hmm.
and yet your rhetoric is um, quite contrary to that fact.
Right. Right.
Um, and it is interesting to think about because just as you said, these are perspectives and dialogues and theories that, we try to implement on a weekly basis in the podcast or when we were, leading tours and in museums. Those are just things that we're cognizant about. It's part of the reason why it just goes what we always kind of preach here on APT, why we think visual history is so important, why history in general is
Mm-hmm.
so important. But this is why I think everyone should also be required to take a gendered women's studies class
Yeah.
at a collegiate level. Because even being introduced to something like that, as simple as the other, people don't even fully understand the concept and the reality of othering.
Yeah. And I just want to make a point really quick. You said at the collegiate level, and I just want to say that like we should all be talking about that because that's another problem is accessibility. Like we
Mm-hmm.
know that our gender women's studies
Mm-hmm.
like classes at the college level like really impacted us, but this needs to be translated to more accessible spaces. Like not everyone is
Sure.
even able to have that opportunity.
Sure.
Um
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
here museums can present that same material hopefully on a more
Mm-hmm.
accessible level. But I really
Yeah.
liked what you said about language because our language is constantly evolving, and in the nature of gendered women's studies in
Mhm.
particular, we are kind of used to that evolution of language. So it's okay,
Yeah.
you know, we know that
Yeah.
it's okay if you and I kind of make a mistake or we read something from, you know, a a decade ago that's not really
Mhm.
correct anymore. But I think it's important it is important to keep those like contextual language clues in mind, but moving forward, we I don't believe we should be referring to the other
Mhm.
when we talk
Yeah.
about querying the museum.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, that's such a good point, Bianca. And it has been very interesting to follow different stories in the midst of this year about public education and like seeing such egregious, like kind of PTA meetings about how parents say just because they don't want certain racial history and racial conflict to be taught in their
Critical race
children's
theory.
classes, yeah, means that they're not racist, which is
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
yes, it does. Yes. So excellent point, Bianca. Um, so do we want to talk about our experiences with queer in the museum now that we have a little bit of background?
Yes, yes. So, if you guys don't know, Gianna was the education intern at the Oklahoma State University Museum of Art. So, I'm gonna let you kind of lead this next portion, and I'll jump in.
Mhm.
But I know that because you were so involved with the educational material of it all, you have a lot of great insight.
Yeah, I started kind of dipping my toe, I should say, in the programming part before I was an intern. So I've had like a fair 3 years of being involved in this event, and then particular 1 year with the Feminist Coalition that we were a part of, Bianca.
Mhm.
We kind of did some partnering with the museum. But a full 2 years, I did a lot of programming for Queer in the Museum. And it's a fantastic event to be a part of, at least in the space that I was able to help promote it. I mean, I think I'm really grateful to have been a part of it and really proud. And I'm going to keep saying that word because I don't think it's a sin. Um, and it's kind of hard to look back on both those events over the course, of 2 different years, kind of regarding the timeline of it all, because so much is happening around you during Pride, in that month, in that week, in the community, and especially at the university, and just in particular, the location that we were at in Stillwater, Oklahoma. But essentially, there is Pride Week on OSU's campus, and there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of partnering with the Gender and Women's Studies or Multicultural Affairs Office. They put on an event called Dragonfly, which is an annual drag show that is a really popular event on campus because it's the one of the only times people in Stillwater have access to that kind of entertainment. Um, but at the museum, we would do, student talks, guest lectures. We would do lessons on queer and art history. One of our student workers would lead like a gay tour, or some of the art history students would share their thesis or their work that related to queer histories. And then what I did, especially in the art lab, and what my educator who I was working with during that time made sure that we, you know, had the usual resources that we do, but had extra kind of tablings and people representative in the community to be there, because the
Mhm.
OSU Museum of Art is also dedicated as a safe zone or safe place.
Yeah.
So it's a destination that if somebody is in trouble, they know that they can come to our location. We can, help them.
Mhm.
So I also wanted to kind of turn at one point. We had this vault. The OSU Museum of Art used to be a post office. So in the art
Yes.
lab where I worked, there was this little tiny vault. We did a lot of different things with it. So one year I turned it into like a little like dance studio, and that was really cute.
Oh,
And
that
then
was so cute.
it was cute. And then after that, for one of our family events, I became really close with this family that would come in for almost every event. And I just had their kids like teach me dance moves because they were like rock stars.
Mhm.
Um, but that one year, I want to say maybe it was 2019. It's hard to look back on the timeline, but when I was in college and a part of this event, the first official Payne County Pride was organized in Stillwater. So our museum also got to help kind of partner and participate with what was going on in Payne County, which is
Mhm.
really fun. There are a lot of different things you also have to consider when you're organizing an event where people's safety and privacy need to be taken into consideration more diligently than perhaps if you were just going to an artist talk.
Yeah.
Um, Holistically, I don't think pride or performative activism or advocacy was a part of what we were doing at the museum. I was lucky enough to be working with queer educators who's worked in
Yes.
the classrooms in museums, and like that's something that I wholeheartedly believe.
That's such an
Um,
important, not to cut you off, but that in itself is such an important part
mhm,
of, you know, museum work. And we've talked
mhm,
about this on kind of like movie and set productions too, is who is behind the scenes doing that work, and it's
yeah,
really important that the people doing that and putting on those programs are those queer museum educators, those queer art historians, those people with not only the expertise, but that lived experience.
right, right. And when I refer to the OSU Museum of Art, it is always going to be a little bit different, a little bit interesting because there is that university politics of it all.
Yeah.
And I think where the performative advocacy is going to come into place is really with the university and itself. And, having to acknowledge that the OSU Museum of Art, and like many other museums associated with campus, has its own voice, has its own platform, not only in the community, but the university. But there are also limitations
Hmm.
to what they're able to do because of university shit like that.
What they're
So,
able is
yeah, yeah.
relative. Take
And
that
it's, yeah,
ability with a grain of salt.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, an example with BLM over the summer, it was really interesting to see university museums having to wait to make statements about things. And you'll see
Yep.
that probably with Pride. I mean, it happens every year with these kind of controversial events, not controversial,
Yeah.
where the university in itself is going to have to make a statement, and then the other platforms will be able to follow in their lead
Right.
after that.
Right. That's
Yeah.
bullshit.
Bullshit. But 2019 was a really great year for queering the museum. It overlapped with a really fantastic exhibition that we were showing. I don't think it was so coincidentally. I think it was great that it was shown through the summer, but
Yeah.
that exhibition was shown for a full semester and into the summer. It was called 50 States, and it's an ongoing series by the artist and couple Nick Vong and Jake Margolin. And they create these site-specific installations based on queer histories pre-Stonewall riots. So we're talking gay cowboys and
Oh,
books with the first lesbian protagonist. And
and we've talked
I,
about them too in a previous
mhm,
episode, and we'll link
yes,
that for
we
you.
have.
It's last year's Pride episode because
So I don't want to go into that exhibition too much, but what I kind of want to talk about a little bit with that exhibition is the impact that it makes on communities and how important that is. This series that they've done has showed in more urban environments, but having it in a place like Stillwater is so, so important because, especially for young people in that public atmosphere, this is the direct cultural outlet and most accessible outlet that they have in their community. And so to
yeah,
have work like that sets the precedence for what kind of community members we want to be. And the programming these artists did throughout Oklahoma was just chef's kiss. But what I want to relay when it comes to not only queer events, but queer exhibition is those difficult conversations you are going to have with public members. I'm really happy to say that from my experience in working with a queer artist and this kind of content, the overall feedback is definitely more positive than it is negative if we want to put it in those terms. But um, Bianca, I guess I'm kind of curious if in your writings or exhibitions that you've worked with, particularly I'm thinking of your work at in Milwaukee
Yeah.
with your internship there with, what was it,
Northwestern Mutual.
Northwestern Mutual, when you created a lot of content for them. Not only was it interesting hearing from your colleagues, how do we kind of want to handle this feedback and engage with the community, but also how, I want to talk to them person to person too, and how do you navigate those waters?
Right. So it's really interesting. In the summer of 2018, I got an internship at a corporate art collection. So I was helping to run the art program at Northwestern Mutual, headquartered in Milwaukee. And I came on at a time when the whole kind of corporate culture of the company had shifted. We were in a new building. Everything was a little bit more um, collaborative. It was a little bit more engaging. They, as a corporation, they were really taking that big shift to focus on kind of work like life balance and focusing on the person rather than this like work machine, which was like really fantastic. And I was very, very lucky to get that internship. What was really cool about working for Northwestern Mutual is that they had almost like the equivalent of student groups. So what you think about, Gianna and I have talked about, we ran the Feminist Coalition at OSU. They had these like employee organizations. So um, as I was working through the collection and the works that they had on display throughout the building, I mean, the building was like massive. I can't even remember how many floors it was. It was like the huge tower in Milwaukee.
And that architect was the same person who built the Devon Tower, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. And it's next to the Milwaukee Art Museum. It's right downtown. So um, I got to lead a tour for the company's LGBTQ plus organization. And it was during the month of June. It was part of Pride. Whenever June came about, Pride flags were put up around the company's building, which is really great. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I really loved that the company took a very frontward and supportive stance of their LGBTQ plus community in their employee base and out in the public. Like Northwestern Mutual is a very public facing company. I mean, they sell life insurance. So I really enjoyed that. However, again, it's like, why isn't this up all year round? You know what I mean? Like, why do we keep the American flag up in the building all the time? But, you're just showcasing your pride once a month. That's the type of thing that I, was skeptical towards. However, the company's employee group is a static thread of the organization year round. So this group has consistent meetings. They're always able to meet, during the course of their workday. Like they're a very big organization within the company itself. So that is pretty consistent over the course of the year. And of course, that organization in turn is going to put on Pride events during June. There's something wrong with that. But so I really did appreciate what the company was doing year round. And my job was to give a tour, kind of like a queer art history tour, and talk about the LGBTQIA plus artists that we had in the collection. And I got to give this tour to anyone who wanted to come, but it was kind of brought in collaboration with the company's LGBTQ plus group. So it was really great. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed just personally, I got to do a lot of research on contemporary artists that were being shown in the building at the time. And I really enjoyed that. And I really loved that the company valued these kind of tours and these events like over the course of the day. It is built into the workplace structure. So anyone just like during their lunch break or, what, it was a very, like I said, like evolving and progressive kind of day-to-day work structure. So I really, really liked it and I really appreciated it. Again, I was just a summer intern, so I don't know how members from that group view company culture all the time. I don't know how performative that is, but I guess there is kind of that internal kind of like give and take. Like, why is this only happening in the month of June? I hope it continued after I left year round. Maybe it just so happened that I was a summer intern and June takes place over the summer, but I think I was very conscientious that I didn't want it to seem like just a performative pride event. Like
Mhm.
that's the thing that I guess is kind of always in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about these types of artistic events.
And it's hard when you also like so enjoyed it because you're getting to do the research and have the conversations that you're interested in. But it's now like all of a sudden like these freaking cicadas that have like are merging out of the ground for 7 years. Now we can all talk about this in the month of June, but then now they're just going to go, that language and those cicadas are going to go
That's a
back
great
under the ground.
analogy.
And I say that because it's terrifying. Both are terrifying. I'm not okay with either one.
Gianna has a fear of bugs and
And
not
straight
talking
white
about
cis
it.
men. Those two.
Yes, those are very real fears.
They are. Yikes. Yeah, very much so. Going back to performative pride too, one of the things that I appreciate so much in the creative space, essentially where I worked at too, is because I had the ability to work with queer educators at the museum. Um, Having resources in there wasn't something we just were able to throw in for the month of June that we just took out.
Right.
And also having an educator, even an intern such as myself, be in the space to be able to guide people towards those resources, whether maybe everybody in the museum was aware of them or not. It was my job to be aware of them, whether that was in my exact job description or not. It was something I knew I needed to do.
Yeah.
Do I think we probably could have had maybe even more resources? Probably, yes, because there's always ways
Or
to
just
grow
or
and
just more
and
events like outside
exactly.
of June,
Exactly. It's interesting too. It's interesting because when you have a museum that's albeit small but has a pretty large permanent collection, you're still a little bit subjected to the permanent collection that you have. So there's always going to kind of be that frame that you're going to
Mhm.
have to work in, but that's where the importance of traveling exhibitions, are able to come into play. I feel as though there are
Yeah,
always ways to recontextualize and relearn and
that's what I was gonna
and
say.
and and always push your permanent collection to the forefront, always, because otherwise, we're going to say the same bullshit like, why would you keep writing about the dinner party?
Exactly.
There's already
Right.
so many things about the dinner party, but it's always wonderful to be able to have access to artists and artworks that you don't think you're going to find in a
Yeah.
place like Oklahoma, which
Right.
is not true.
Right. But that's what museums and art museums should be about. Like art history is a dual field about both the past and the present. And I don't think the field exists without one or the other. It
Mm-hmm.
it will always be a field of study that has to encompass the present, but inevitably we have millions of objects,
Mm-hmm.
from our past. So it's like always going to be that competitive kind of spirit, but that's what we should like about
Yeah.
art and art history is that we can do that.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think one of the other things I kind of thought about talking about today was the training that takes place at these establishments in prep for events like Queer in the
Mm-hmm.
Museum. Um, as thrilled as I am to see trainings like this happen, not just for student staff, but for the entire staff, is great. Does it annoy me that it happens in conjunction with event like Queer in the Museum? Yes, because that needs to be, we are an educational institution. We are designated as a safe place, and many a lot of museums are, especially on college campuses. So to me, that's essential kind of language that we all need to be cognizant about, going back to our earlier conversation.
Museums serve the public. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
Mhm.
Museums serve the public, and your public is not gay 1 month out of the year. I just
Yeah.
can't harp on that enough. Like, you don't get to pick and choose when you learn about the community that you're supposed to be serving, because they are constant. That is their life. It's
Mhm.
not just, I'm
Well,
really glad you brought that up, Gianna.
Well, it's actually interesting that you bring that up, because that is actually one of my key responses to negative feedback I have conversed with community members. People aren't just gay 1 month of the year. Our
Right.
exhibitions reflect the needs of the community, and there are queer and gay people living in our community, and it's important to have events and exhibitions brought into this area because we reflect artwork that reflects our community. If you
Mhm.
don't want to be a part of this exhibition, it's okay. I'm not going to force you to stay and look at this art. If you want to have a conversation with me about it, I'd love to have that with you. Otherwise, you can look at this art, or you're welcome to come back after this exhibition is gone.
Right.
There are like that's your statement is a pretty like on the nose for how I would try to communicate with people in a very, I think, frank and important way.
Mhm.
Um, Kind of going back to the training of it all, though, it was also really interesting to have, um, I'll refer to them as volunteers, people who might be helping out with this exhibition who need to come in for these trainings, and myself having to have really difficult conversations with predominantly like white older females, um, how to use the word queer, and
Mhm.
how it's not a word you need to be afraid of saying. It's a word that you need to use with context and be cognizant and be conscious of what you're saying and who you're saying it to.
Right.
Uh, but it's really interesting to have talked with an older generation of people who think of queer as they do other derogatory words.
Yeah. And that goes back to education of
Mhm.
language, and
Right.
that's how we can.
The evolution of language.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean,
right.
yeah, absolutely. So I think that was just very interesting, putting on an event called Queering the Museum. Like, that is a very loaded
Mhm.
word, and we do need to understand how we're using it in that
Yeah.
context. But do
And be
I think,
respectful of older members of the LGBTQIA
Mhm.
plus community who don't want to be grouped in as that word as well.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I think my thing with that was, do I think that I have knowledge that I can share and I can have a conversation with these people about? Absolutely. Do I feel like I should be the person to perhaps have led this kind of like informal training? I think what I got from that experience is that there's so much more that needs to be unpacked here,
Yeah.
and we need someone who has a clear emphasis or study in this subject matter and in this field to be able to help guide us in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I think anytime you're ever doing any kind of training about inclusivity, and I did get a lot of that. It was really cool to have students in the OSU department who are in counseling and be able to lead trainings with us in some degree or matter. Like, fantastic to bring in other students to do that. But as we like to say on APT, I just thought it was interesting to reflect on.
Yeah.
And if I was a part of that event in the future, would I, knowing what I have done and what I've been a part of and how to move forward and do that differently? Absolutely, because there's always room to improve.
Yeah. So I think we need to wrap things up for today. But Gianna, if there was any point of advice, any last thing that you want to say about queering the museum, looking at performative pride like this in artistic spaces, what might that be?
Um, Me and Bianca are referring to our prior work experiences and personal experiences with Pride. And we use these as examples, I think, not to call that platform out or institution out, because as we've said so many times, they've done amazing things. And that's where we got our start and love for art. But I'm using them as examples because that is my prior knowledge. These are things that are happening everywhere,
Yes.
in museums and in commerce. And even where I'm at now at 21C Museum Hotel, there is a promo going on called Love is Love, which is great.
Yeah.
There's nothing essentially wrong with something like that promo. But do I think it's interesting to see a gift shop suddenly packed with rainbow content, specifically in the month of June, and gay and queer people are not aware of what's going on. And I love working for institutions, and I'm so privileged to work for institutions that set this precedent in their community and make that effort to do so. And there is so much room for love and admiration there, and I so appreciate that. But we need to acknowledge how we're commodifying off of so much history and pain and identity. And there is a cause for discomfort there, that because I'm so interested in consumer experiences, that I want us to be aware of.
Yeah.
And I think you all are aware of, I really do. But, it's nice to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we made it through our first video recording. Hopefully we can keep it up,
I know my nail polish names weren't funny. Juliana, where are you? I need you.
No, that was honestly really funny.
It's just so bad because we're both so bad at it. Like, I'm definitely aware.
It's good practice. Good practice.
We need a lot of practice.
Good thing we have this weekly podcast.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like we said at the top of the show, if you are new, definitely check out the rest of the social media. We post a lot of our image resources on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the week. The content that we talk about in the episode, we often share it on our Instagram, our Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're everywhere. You can watch this hopefully on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have playlists there with all of our art news resources, different stories. We post all of our guest interviews on YouTube as well, so you can watch them there as well as in the audio version. We are available anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher. We're on Good Pods now. If you're on the Good Pods app, we're there as well. So we're really everywhere you get your podcasts. So thank you guys so much for subscribing. If you use Apple Podcasts, or if you have Apple Podcasts, go on there, leave us a review. And you can always email us with thoughts, comments, concerns at artpoptalk@gmail.com. So with that, I think we will talk to you on Tuesday. Bye, everyone.
Bye.